Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Crypto News Podcast. We are buzzing as always, still in Dubai, still freezing my you-know-what off. It is so bloody cold in this apartment. It is literally 19 degrees. Normally that's nice, but it's again, it's a weird contrast. You go outside, it's like 39 degrees Celsius, feels like 50. For my American friends, I'm sorry. I don't quite know what that is in your language, but it's hot as hell outside and it's cold as hell inside. Sort of nice, sort of not nice. But enough about me. Super pumped to have the one and only Ian Rogers on the show for round two. Chief Experience Officer at Ledger, leading the consumer-facing arm of the business. He was previously the Chief Digital Officer at Louis Vuitton, well, LVMH, working with a portfolio of nearly 100 brands across luxury, including, of course, Louis V, Dior, Sephora, and Hennessy. Episode 1 was an absolute electric factory. We had some great stories about Tony Fadell, the Godfather of the iPod, and we went into a deep dive with Ledger Stax and Ledger Flex. Ian, welcome to the show, my friend. Pumped to have you on for round two. How you doing?
Thanks. I'm good. Thanks for having me back. I know exactly what you mean about that air conditioning, the shock. And for the Americans, you're talking about like 100 degrees outside and like 63 degrees inside. Like, what is up with that? No, I agree. The first thing I do when I get in one of those hotel rooms is I turn the air conditioning either off or up to like 22. I don't know why they keep it at like, 18, 19. It's too cold.
No, my Argentinian girlfriend is having a connection right now. She's used to some nice hot rooms and climates, and that is definitely not it. Look, last time I had you on, just over a year ago, give or take, you had some hot takes that came true. We talked about stablecoins. You nailed that. You nailed that, and you talked about you hinted at Ledger recovery key, but you couldn't give me any gold there. Just said we're moving and grooving on the Ledger recovery key space. We'll get into that later, but let's just start with overall market here, Ian. Ledger aside, cold wallets aside, hot wallets aside, storage aside, anything that gets you really excited present day in the crypto market?
Oh man, I think we should be incredibly excited. I mean, crypto is legal. At this point, I feel like we have news every week that, 4 years ago, we all would have, our eyeballs would have popped out of our head if the SEC came and said that basically it was clear what crypto exchanges were allowed to do with digital assets without, this ambiguity and kind of like looming threat that exchanges were living with a few years ago. And today, things are becoming clearer and clearer week after week, whether that's, stablecoin legislation or the guidance that we got this week, so I think that's the main thing. And through that, I think what you're getting obviously is this complete merger of crypto and TradFi. And, that makes sense, and I always look at it through, I'm kind of the old guy that lived through the internet, and, that's my lens, that's my pattern matching that I always do. But I think, you always have this, when a technology is new, you get kind of not only haters, but also just plain old denial, like, we don't know, which is healthy, to be honest. Like,
it's part of life, part of the cycle.
Yeah. Well, and also you can't just like shift your business with every, new hype, thing that comes. These things have to prove themselves over time, but we're 16 years into this crypto world now, and that's long enough for the technology to have proven itself and for us to clearly see what it is and isn't. And, I think you have, a very broad recognition by the, financial community that not only is Bitcoin what it is, which is, digital gold and a hedge against inflation, but that these rails of permissionless money are useful, and that we don't necessarily need credit rails to do digital payment. We can, build ecosystems where we can do permissionless digital payment with instant settlement. And then that has a variety of utilities. So I think we're finally getting that integration that we've all been calling for 10 years.
Very well said there. Very well said. Last epi, stablecoins. I'd love to jump into that, Ian, because again, you nailed this right now. Financial institutions are moving in, retail's moving in, brands are moving in. You're one of the few guys in crypto who actually has like all world experience working for the best companies that have ever existed. Do you think these guys are all going to adopt stablecoins? Are we going to see, with Stripe and with Google getting into the blockchain space, like is every luxury brand, and then furthermore, every sort of consumer-facing brand, B2B brand, just any powerful brand in general, are they all going to jump into the stablecoin and blockchain space? Or you think they're going to give it a try, they're going to fail, and then we're going to go back to just building on Ethereum, building on Solana, building on Hyperliquid, building on Bitcoin, building on whatever? How do you think that all plays out?
I think that they all will, but I'm not sure that they will all, that they will even necessarily know or need to know what they're doing, right? What if you look at companies like, Louis Vuitton, et cetera, they buy solutions. They don't necessarily build, technological platforms. They buy their solutions from some technology provider. So if you walk into a Louis Vuitton store and you scan your credit card, you're using a solution that Louis Vuitton bought from a payment provider, right? And what'll happen is that those payment providers will use crypto rails because it's what the consumers use. How does a consumer want to pay? You need to be able to accept. For example, in China, 10 years ago, we were taking WeChat Pay in LVMH stores. Why?
That's wild.
Because
That is wild.
that's how the
Yeah.
consumers wanted to pay. You need to take money from consumers the way that they want to pay. And so I think that, if you look at, the US, the saturation of Venmo is, between my friends, 100%. I don't know what it is across the
Yeah.
whole country, but every single person that I know they're shocked that I don't have Venmo because I'm a European, because they're like, wait, it's like saying you don't breathe oxygen. So I think that, is Venmo crypto under the hood? Probably not. But if that's the right technology, it will be. And so I think that, what you have with stablecoins is you have a new technology that's fully backed by hard assets that we can all trade in. And then I think what that does, it really just unlocks developers to build great solutions that will be more affordable. Right now, a retailer in the US is paying 3%, kind of a
A lot.
tax to accept credit cards, and they don't need to. That consumer who's coming in isn't asking for credit. They're asking for digital payment. And when digital payment is possible, and then if there are a whole bunch of other kind of challenges for costs, if you will, for the retailer, which is, well, I take the credit card payment, but I don't actually receive that payment for some
Yeah.
period of time. That money's not liquid for me for some period of time. I've got this whole chargeback process because there's actually a lot of fraud in that system, where if I could, accept digital dollars, that are treasury backed stable coins that can be transferred to me for a fraction of a penny and settle instantly, isn't that simply a better solution for me as a retailer?
Damn
And if
right.
that's the case, you can bet that it'll happen. We just need good, and there are really good, you just scan a QR code and pay, like WeChat Pay or Status Pay or Venmo. There's
It's just
already.
I agree with you. It's tough though with tapping. Like, I mean, this is so bad to say, Ian, and my dad, for example, Dad, if you're listening to this, you have every right to give me shit for this, but we'll be, I don't know, go golfing or whatever, and the cart girl will come by, and I won't even have cash on me. I'm just like, when I tip, I'm tipping with just tapping my phone, paying a credit card, and then giving the tip, right? I don't even carry cash half the time when I'm in Canada, unless I go to a different country and I need it. But you know what I mean? So
And what are
I
you
think
using to
that
do that? Kind of Apple Pay?
exactly, yeah,
Okay.
Amex, MasterCard, Visa, whatever the case may be, right?
I
And
would
in Canada, we
I
have
would love to
Interact
know the
e-transfer.
mechanics of that. I'd love to know the mechanics of that, because my guess is that there's a higher than say with stable coins charge for using those crypto rails for that payment.
Yeah, but
I don't know the answer in that
yeah,
country. It's also just frankly not my specialty, but
of course,
that's, to me, you're using the wrong rails for that task, right? Because what you want
yeah, yeah, yeah.
is immediate, inexpensive,
You need to tap.
peer-to-peer
Yeah,
transfer,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
That's not what credit rails were built for. Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
no
yeah.
credit card company would claim they were. That's why PayPal exists. That's why Venmo exists. And so, ultimately those rails will be retrofitted for a better technology.
Imagine WhatsApp, and again, it's crazy. In North America, no one uses WhatsApp. Everywhere around the world, everyone uses WhatsApp, right? And you know how it works. Imagine I could
Yeah.
just meet you in person, tap our phones together, and then we just click, like, boom. Imagine like sending whatever kind of crypto stable coin, whatever it is, via WhatsApp. Oh my goodness, that would melt
I
faces.
mean, you can, and that's the thing, is there hasn't been a technical barrier to doing that for a long time.
Yeah.
There have been regulatory barriers that were so big
Yeah.
that Meta, the company that owns WhatsApp, tried to go down this route and
And
create a
stopped.
stablecoin,
Yeah.
and they got stopped. I remember a venture capitalist at the time telling me, this is the greatest idea that's being pursued by the worst company to do it. I thought that was a great quote. And that's not because they were a bad company. It was because nobody wanted them to
Exactly.
own the internet
More
of value.
power. Yeah,
Like
more power.
absolutely no one, no tech
Yeah.
company, no congressman, not even a consumer wanted Meta to own the internet of value. You know what I mean? So it was exactly the right idea, maybe done by, by the company that people didn't want to do it. But, there wasn't a technical barrier to do it. There was a regulatory barrier to do it. Well, now,
Those are
just a
gone.
couple months ago,
Yeah.
that regulatory barrier has been removed. And we know that these things don't happen overnight, but when they happen, once the light's green, people look around to see if other cars are going, and then everybody goes, right? So
Yeah.
that's what I think goes on now. I think that
Yeah.
dream you just said will be, right around the corner.
That's gonna be a fun day. Good Lord. Okay, let's get into Ledger for a sec here. I mean, there's so many things we could talk about. The recovery key, this is something that I think this is absolutely huge. I'll let you explain this because you can explain this much better than me. But when I've onboarded friends to crypto, I always tell them, I'm like, look, if you're only going to spend a couple $100, maybe just a couple thousand, depending on your risk profile, and you and I would probably disagree on this, but maybe you don't need a ledger right away, maybe not. But once you start actually putting, even I would say mid to low four figures of crypto, like put it on a friggin' ledger. And if you want to use a Trezor, go use a Trezor, but go put it somewhere safe. Don't just leave it out in the open, where it can be very easily hacked, so on and so forth. It's not easy for the first time when a person writes down their seed phrase, when a person has to memorize their codes and everything. It's still a gong show, but it's what is needed if you're going to do self-custody and if you're not going to have a bank like how the traditional financial world works. With that being said, walk me through Ledger recovery key. I think this was absolutely huge. Explain it to us, and then we'll get into the fun stuff.
So thank you. First of all, you're absolutely right. The moment that you have, money that you wouldn't want to lose, you definitely need a hardware wallet, and certainly for me, it's a ledger. Our architecture is unparalleled and doesn't really have competition. So I appreciate that. But when you're looking at a hardware wallet and you're sizing it up, I think there's three things you need to consider. One is security. So look deeply at the architecture. I think you'll land on Ledger, but that's another part of the conversation. The second is ease of use. Can I use it? Can I do the things I want to do with it? Does it support the crypto that I care about? Those questions. And then the third one is recoverability. What happens if it gets lost or stolen or damaged? I leave it in my pants pocket and put it in the washing machine. What do I do? You really have to have a good plan for that. And correct, the cryptographic way of doing that is you write down a recovery phrase, and you can always recover your accounts as long as you have that recovery phrase. Most people don't understand that because we're used to a world where if I forget my password, I, click the forgot password link and I go through some flow and I get my password
Boom,
back.
you're back. Yeah.
But that doesn't exist for crypto, and you don't want it to, right? Because those things are quite easy to hack. So what this gives you is a foolproof way to recover your accounts, your 24 words, but it also creates a single point of failure. If you lose your 24 words and your PIN code, then you don't have that. And also if someone else gets their hands on your 24 words, then they have all your value. If you've taken a screenshot of your 24 words and someone gets into your iCloud account, boom, you're wiped out, right? And so that's where that recovery really becomes, paramount. And there's another challenge in that people just don't necessarily get it the first time, and I always say to people, if you're not a little nervous about it, then you don't understand it, because you really have
100%.
to think hard about how do you want to solve this problem. So we offer the widest variety of the way to solve that. So the very first thing that's been around forever, you get your ledger, it comes with a little piece of paper, you write down your 24 words, there you go. Now, a lot of third parties have created these great like CryptoTag, CryptoSteel, et cetera. They've created these great solutions where you can basically capture your 24 words on something that's fireproof, and put them in
Yeah.
a safe place. So in the case of, a fire or like water damage, you didn't get the ink run off the page, that sort of thing. So that's, I think, the next step. Now, the third thing that we created is this basically cloud-based backup, Ledger Recover, and it's $10 a month. And we've talked about it in the past. I won't go into detail, but it shards it into three. It stores it with three different custodians in three different jurisdictions. And then you're able to recover it with your identification, which for an average user who has less than $50,000 in value, it's a great solution. And then now we've introduced one more solution, which is an NFC-based backup. It comes in every one of our touchscreen devices. It's a little square card, and you hold it on the back of your ledger, and it backs up your recovery phrase. And then if you need to restore, you get a new ledger. You hold it on the back of your ledger, and it restores your accounts. What's great about that is it's PIN protected. So if someone discovers it in a drawer and doesn't have your PIN, they don't have access to your recovery phrase. So you can basically, have it in your apartment and have easy access to it and not worry about,
That's
a
my
thief,
favorite part.
a thief
That's my
coming
favorite
in
part.
and also having access to it without your PIN code. Also, you can't make a mistake. We hear stories of like, I can't read word number 13. I wrote it down 5 years ago. What does it say? It's electronic. So, it's a perfect backup. And also you can have multiple of them, right? So you could have, 4 or 5 or, 3, 4, 5 different of these cards and have them in different physical locations. I had a friend who lost his ledger and his recovery phrase in the Pacific Palisades fires in Los Angeles. And so if you have, multiple in different locations, then you're protected from that kind of a loss. And it's just a great way to have a secure, encrypted, electronic, PIN protected backup of your accounts that you can store in multiple places. So now those come free in the box with every one of Ledger's touchscreen devices. So Ledger Flex and Ledger Stax, and you can buy extras on ledger.com if you want them.
Well said. It's a great little riff there. We'll come back to this, but what do you think the future of cold storage looks like? I'm talking, I don't want to say a year down the road, when I think things will be pretty similar, like 5 years down the road. You're a visionary. I mean, you don't get hired by all these brands you work for if you don't know how to identify and execute on trends. I feel like that's one of the things you're best at. My apologies if I'm putting, words in your mouth there. But with that being said, what do you think self-custody looks like in 2030? Like, are we going to have some crazy, retinal eyeball? Like, what the heck is self-custody going to look like in 2030?
Well, first of all, thank you for the compliment. What I try to do is I try to live in the future, because when you live in the future, it's cheating. When you're living in the future, you can see the future. And I'm going to touch on 3 things. One is value, the other is identity, and the third is AI, because I think that custody of your own secrets is important in all 3 of those cases. That's really what we're talking about, right? We've always had self-custody in our lives. You used to be able to hold your own gold, hold your own money, hold your own hold your own stock certificates.
Yeah.
And we have a mixture of custody in our pockets, right? Like in your wallet, you've got a little bit of cash, some metro tickets, which are custody. Let's face it, concert tickets are self-custody.
Yeah.
They're legal tender and they're self-custody. You've got your identification, and that's your identification is something that's hard to acquire, easy to show, easy to share with someone else, right? Like that's what these things are. But you've also got a credit card, which is kind of custodial, right? With a high limit, and you've got an ATM card with a low limit. Those are custodial things. So you have all these things in your pocket already. And then on your phone, you have possession of your phone, but all of your data is really in the cloud. Your images are backed up to the cloud, your mail's backed up to the cloud, et cetera. And therefore you're really reliant on those third parties, Apple, Google, Facebook, et cetera. I think, we've become overly reliant on those things. And there's a whole bunch of, indicators of that. And I think that also doesn't work going into a world of agentic AI. So I think, first of all, what's the low-hanging fruit? Just like we talked about at the beginning, we've got this merger of crypto and TradFi going on right now. There's 7 billion smartphones on the planet, and the vast majority of them have some kind of value management app on them. Your banking app, PayPal, Venmo, Robinhood, Coinbase, Revolut, et cetera, right? Ledger is the premium version of those, because it's the way of saying, if you're serious about digital value, then you need a ledger, because you need to own your own secrets. You need to own your own secrets so they can't get into the hands of wrong people. Let's be honest, like the user experience in all of those apps I just mentioned is bad on some level, because they can't be sure you are who you say you are.
Yeah.
When I log into my banking app, they don't know that it's me. So I can't do anything, actually. I want to transfer you money. Oh, well, if I add you as a payee, I have to wait 48 hours. Okay, well, I want to transfer you $50,000. No, sorry, your limit's only 5,000. You have to call a banking if you really want to send 50. It's all built because they can't be sure that I am who I say I am. right? So if you own your own secrets, then you can do what you want to with your value without needing to ask permission. That's what permissionless money means. So I think that, really, we've already lived through a digitization of all information. Now we're living through the digitization of all value, and Ledger will continue to be the premium application for people who are serious about digital value. So that's the value side. Now I think you have the identity side. Increasingly, our identities are becoming digital. People are using Google Wallet, or Apple Wallet for lots of different, ways of identifying who they are. We're being asked to prove our age online now. I mean, many countries, including France, now and what you really want to do is you want to be able to prove that you are a human who's over the age of 18 or 21 without giving up personally identifiable information.
ZK.
Well,
yeah.
If you're carrying, if you own your own private keys, you have the ability to do that. So I think identity is another very big space. And I think trust brokers will be very important in the future. In other words, like, how does it work? Well, what I have to do is I have to prove that I'm a unique human with this passport to someone. And then I get those encrypted, that encrypted identity on chain. And now that's usable anywhere that someone is going to believe that trust broker, right? That trust broker, that they go, okay, I believe those people did the work. That's exactly the same as when I rent a car. I have a French driver's license and an American driver's license, and sometimes they prefer one over the other. It's really a question of, like, who do you believe? Like, whose word is better for you? Is kind of what you're asking. That will exist, and that will exist on chain. So identity is another space. I think the third space is AI. Crypto really is the flip side of the coin to artificial intelligence, because AI is digital abundance and blockchains are digital scarcity. And if we're moving into a world of AI agents, I think, this is the thing I really, once I saw this, I can't unsee it. When I go and, book a plane ticket, what am I doing? I go to Skyscanner, I choose a date range, I fill in a bunch of fields, and then I hit go. We won't do that 5 years from now. Our interface to that will be AI, whether that's like a personal agent where I say, hey, I need a plane ticket to New York. I'm going on these dates. Can you tell me what the deals are? So the interface, is no longer human to Skyscanner. The interface is AI to Skyscanner and however many other choices are out there. Okay, so then what happens though? Does the AI agent have my credit card? Does the AI agent have my Delta login? You know what I mean? Like, no. I mean, so I think that this internet that we live on today, where all of our preferences are behind thousands of websites, username and password, that doesn't work in a world of agentic AI. I, the user, have to own my preferences, and I need to be able to federate the information that I want. I can say, I can prove to you that I'm over the age of 21 without it giving you any personal information. I can say, you may have my Delta login. Yes, you may. I can say, yes, I agree to the price for that plane ticket, and here you go. I'm approving the transaction on my secure device with my secure screen. That's what the future looks like. It must, because the alternative, where these AIs become central honeypots of all of our personal information, all of our memories, all of our thoughts, all of our credit cards and our value and our identities, is like, they are dystopian honeypots. It cannot work. So I think that that's something that we really have to sort out over the next 5 to 10 to 15 years as these technologies become more prevalent in our lives.
Great riff. I'm excited. I know a lot of people are scared and everything, but I'm excited. I look at the last couple of technological sort of revolutions, and I think it's made society better as a whole, for the most part. But we'll get back into that. Ian, you're on a roll. Huge shout out to our sponsor of the show, Prime XBT. When we get back, we're going to keep buzzing on the future, and we're going to keep buzzing on Ledger. Huge shout out to Prime XBT, longtime friends and longtime sponsors of the Crypto News podcast. We love the team at Prime XBT, as they offer a robust trading system for both beginners and professional traders. It doesn't matter if you're a rookie or a vet, you can easily design and customize your layouts and widgets to best fit your trading style. Prime XBT is also running an exclusive promo for listeners of the Crypto News pod. Use the promo code CryptoNews50, that's CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. Again, CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. I literally talk on 1.5 speed when I'm doing ad reads. I need to go back to speaking like a normal human. I'll work on that. Okay. back to Ledger. Any new updates? Anything? We're getting a little tight for time here, mate. Anything that you guys are coming out with over the next couple weeks? I mean, heck, could be days, weeks, months. You guys are always shipping new stuff. What's going on with Ledger right now?
Yeah, so I mentioned Ledger Recovery Key. That's a big one. I think a lot of people are still not aware of the products we've done over the last couple of years. So Ledger Flex and Ledger Stax.
Yeah.
These are touchscreen devices. They have great security, but also really beautiful user interface because, you mentioned cold storage earlier. And I think that's becoming a bit of a misnomer because we're all doing more with our crypto every day than ever before. And so what you want to be able to do is to be able to do the things you want to do them easily, not a lot of hassle. I don't have to go to the vault, dig it out of the ground. I can use my devices every day. I use my ledgers for logging into Google, logging into X, and anything I'm doing throughout the day. And you want that to be easy to do and easy to use. So we're always adding features to Ledger Live to do that. And that means new services. So buy, swap, stake, any ways to earn yield. We've got a Ledger credit card. The Ledger credit card is rolling out into more markets basically on a monthly basis. We're rolling more markets there. And that's a crypto rewards card where you could spend crypto. So you can take your crypto, you take whatever little bit of it you want, you put it into the card account, which is a custodial account. But then when you tap your card, it's converting the crypto at the time of sale, and you're getting rewards in crypto on that.
When are you guys coming to Canada?
That's a great question, and I don't know the answer, but we announced the US, and I don't know where Canada fits in that. I apologize because I probably should.
No worries.
Maybe
because I follow you guys on Twitter. I see the updates. I'm like, well, I mean, I know my country sometimes a little slow with stuff, but come on, what are we waiting for? Let's get going.
Yeah, well, I'll find out. And I'll get back to you. We're in Best Buy Canada. We're doing more. I was just with the Best Buy team in August, down out in Minneapolis. And one of the things we talked about is Best Buy Canada. We're going to be doing more and more with Best Buy Canada across the year, which is really great news. We love working with them, and it's great for our Canadian customers. So I think that Ledger Live is where the most things happen. I encourage people to jump into Ledger Live and see what's new. Also, with one thing that we've been doing this year that's kind of quiet, but if you're paying attention, you'll notice we're adding more chains and more functionality faster than ever before. So we're on top of things that are new. And we're really no matter who you are and what your community's up to, we really want to serve you inside of Ledger Live. And we're building these relationships with the foundations, doing more, even around co-marketing. Look at what we did with our Solana device this year, and where we're actually able to, if you buy the device, you're getting a soulbound token. Those people are getting airdrops. The people who bought the Solana device have already got $150, $200 in value out of airdrops for buying a $250 device. So, not bad at all. And it keeps coming. So we want to do more of those things with more communities. We've been working really closely with the Sui community lately. I love those guys. It's been super fun. And we're just talking to, crypto communities and foundations every day about how we can work together and keep their communities safe, but also really give them a good suite of tools to work with, right? It's not just cold storage anymore. It's about how do I connect to my apps? So, we have some big announcements coming up between now and the end of the year. And hopefully once we throw those out there, I can jump back on and tell you and your peoples about them.
I love that. Yeah, Ian, my only thing that I disliked, and it's still not where I'd like it to be, but again, this is me just being needy, as many consumers
Please, feedback is good. Give it.
Yeah, I didn't, a couple of years ago, I would always be like, oh, why do I, if I want to trade something, why do I always have to leave Ledger? There's not that much functionality. Now Ledger Live is so much better. You can, I don't want to say it feels like a centralized exchange, but it feels like a good enough swap and stake platform and receiving platform where I can actually, have some fun in this instead of it being I'm going to have to, this is where I store my stuff, but I send it somewhere else to then make trades and then send it back. Now I feel like I can do it all in app. So you guys have done a great job there. But that was my only neg on.
I agree with you. And I like it for one more reason. We really believe it's one of our fundamental beliefs is choice. So if you look at the way that Ledger Live works, and the difference from an exchange is if you want to do a buy or you want to do a swap, you're going to get choices, right? So we always want to stay away from that paradox of choice. Sometimes you present people with so many choices, they choose nothing. You know what I mean? So you want to stay away from that one. At the same time, the right partner for that particular trade might differ based on where you are geographically, what are the two assets that you're swapping, between, what's the asset you're buying, how much are you buying, all of these variables might affect who is the best partner. So we say, where are you? What are you trying to buy? How much are you buying? And then we present you a list of choices so you can choose. The other thing that does, and this is really proven true in our case, is that it drives that cost down for the user, because now all of those people are competing for your click, right? It's very much the Google model, right? So now you've got all of those buy partners are competing for your click. And so you really can know that you're getting a good price for that buy, for that swap, et cetera. The other thing is on the earn side, we really want to give people the choice to earn yield from self-custody. When FTX went down, anyone who was staking Solana with Ledger was somebody that Solana didn't need to worry about right now, right? Those people are safe. They're locked up, they're earning, and they're good. And I think that's where you want to be as a consumer. That's where you want your community to be if you're a member of a community or a foundation. And we're really trying to make sure that we can play that role. So you can buy, deliver to self-custody. You can swap from self-custody to self-custody. You can earn from self-custody and stay safe throughout the whole cycle. That's our goal. We're constantly chipping away at it. I saw the Ledger Live roadmap yesterday and it's amazing. And then it said, yeah, it would take us like literally years to get all of this done. So, it's really about we just got to spend the time and do the hard work, delivering everything that we need to deliver to the customer. But, that's what we're doing. Work is work.
That's the journey.
Yeah.
Baby. Ian, always a pleasure having you on, mate. Great convos, and you always drop some nice little knowledge bombs as well. So appreciate this.
Anytime.
Can't wait to have you on. Yeah, can't wait to have you on for the next one. We'll do that in later Q4. Before you go, can you please let our listeners know where they can find you personally and of course Ledger online and on socials?
Sure. I'm trying to hide these days, but Ledger's at ledger.com. I'm IANCR on X, but I'm barely there anymore, man. I'm moonwalking out and just letting Ledger do the talking. I'll give a plug and say, just today I interviewed the great Rick Rubin about his AI book, The Way of Code. So if you look at Rick's Tetragrammaton podcast, today dropped the interview of me interviewing Rick, and I'm very proud of it. And I would be really thankful if people would check it out.
Wow, Rick is one of the goats. Holy crap. I love his interviews, guys. You want to talk about living in the future? That guy lives in the friggin' future. Holy crap.
He is truly an inspiration. I asked him if he would mind if I interviewed him about his vibe coding book, and he just said that he'd be happy to. So I was really, really honored to get the opportunity. So check it out and tell me what you think.
Electric. Folks, what an episode with Ian Rogers, Chief Experience Officer at the one and only Ledger. Huge shout out to Ian for coming on the show. Talked a little bit about the hardware wallet evolution, on-chain identity, stablecoins, the merger of crypto and TradFi, and a whole lot of other stuff too. Huge shout out to Ian and the team for making this happen. If you guys enjoyed this one, and I hope you did, please do subscribe, hammer that like button. We love you tuning in. To my team, thank you as always. You guys are the best. And to the listeners, guys, keep on growing those bags, keep on using ledgers and treasures if you like as well. We got to plug them both. Just use cold storage. And as always, keep on staying healthy, wealthy, and happy. Love you guys, and we'll see you on the next one. Ciao.